Imagine being able to focus deeply, banishing distractions, and tapping into your true potential. This audiobook shows you how a simple dopamine detox can rewire your brain for incredible productivity and focus. Ready to escape distractions? Introduction. You've felt it before, right? That urge to check your phone the moment it buzzes, to scroll through your social media just to see what's happening out there. It's tempting, isn't it? But here's the catch. Every time you give in to that urge, you're reshaping your brain. That little hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical, makes you believe it's what you need. It feels important at that moment. Yet while it gives you a brief pleasure, it slowly steals your focus. It robs you of doing the deep, meaningful work that brings real productivity and fulfillment. Dopamine can be both a friend and a foe. It's what drives us to achieve our goals, sparks our creativity, and brings us joy. It's powerful, but in today's hyper-connected world, dopamine can turn against us. With every ping, every like, every notification, we're conditioned to chase instant gratification, jumping from one distraction to another. What's the outcome? We often feel scattered, unproductive, and overwhelmed by the mountain of tasks vying for our attention. Now let's talk about the dopamine trap, how distractions take over your focus. Every single day, we're hit with a non-stop barrage of distractions. Our phones, email alerts, social media updates, they're all crafted to trigger dopamine, delivering that addictive rush of pleasure, even if it's just for a moment. While this constant buzz might seem harmless, it's actually undermining our ability to concentrate and deeply engage. Each time you check your phone or respond to a notification, you get that sweet dopamine hit. It feels good, but over time, those small distractions stack up, creating a cycle that makes it tougher to focus on tasks that need your full attention. This cycle, the constant craving for more dopamine-driven distractions, is at the heart of why we struggle to dive into deep work. And this addiction to distraction isn't just a minor annoyance. It's a real issue that affects every part of our lives. We're so wired to seek that instant satisfaction, we end up forgetting how to work without constant interruptions. We're always jumping from one task to another, never really diving into the work that could push us forward in life. Instead of keeping our eyes on long-term goals, we get caught up in a cycle of quick rewards. So what is dopamine? It's those instant hits that give us a quick thrill but fade away fast. This endless distraction doesn't just steal your focus, it stifles your potential. When you can't concentrate deeply, you end up feeling busy but not really getting anything done. Enter the power of a dopamine detox. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain to help you focus and be more productive. The goal isn't to cut out dopamine completely, but to lessen those unnecessary distractions and take back your attention. A dopamine detox is your ticket to breaking free from the distractions that hijack your focus and make you crave instant rewards. By cutting out those outside triggers, your brain can reset and learn to engage in work that actually matters. But how does this detox really work? It's more than just ditching social media or watching less TV. A true dopamine detox means being intentional with your time. You need to think about when and how you do things that trigger dopamine. It's about finding a balance between work, rest, and play. It's also about letting yourself feel bored sometimes, giving your mind a chance to recharge and reset. As you go through this detox, you'll start to see some big changes. You'll find your focus improving, productivity rising, and that satisfying feeling of accomplishment from doing deep work without distractions pulling you away. By the end of this book, you'll have the tools you need to escape the dopamine trap and really enjoy the benefits of focused work. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. It's about taking the time to reset your brain and commit to the kind of meaningful work that leads to real success. So if you're ready to take charge of your attention, get your focus back, and actually make progress on what matters to you, this is it. Let's jump into the dopamine detox and begin the journey to rewiring your brain for productivity, fulfillment, and success. Dopamine in our modern lives is everywhere. Distractions are relentless. Our brains are flooded with notifications, alerts, and a constant rush of instant rewards. The buzz of a new message, the pull of social media, that satisfying click of the like button, it's hard to keep our minds on one thing for long. But here's a thought. All these distractions share a common thread. They're tied to a brain chemical called dopamine. To regain control over your focus and productivity, understanding dopamine is key. So what exactly is dopamine? It's often called the brain's reward chemical. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger that's central to our motivation, pleasure, and reward systems. It's known as the feel-good chemical for a reason. It brings us joy and satisfaction from activities we find rewarding. Every time we savor a delicious meal, dive into a favorite hobby, receive a compliment, or check our social media for likes, our brain releases dopamine. That's what makes us feel good and drives us to do it again. Interestingly, dopamine isn't just released when we feel pleasure. It also gets triggered by anticipating it. It fuels our desire to chase rewards, whether they're immediate, like checking our phones, or delayed, like working toward a long-term goal. That anticipation is what makes dopamine such a powerful force. Dopamine is crucial because it's closely linked to our behaviors. When we do something rewarding, our brain sends out dopamine to say, "This feels good, keep it up." This feedback loop shapes our habits, good or bad. But here's the catch. This system can easily be misused. In a world where instant gratification is just a click away, we often find ourselves in a cycle of chasing one dopamine hit after another. Whether it's scrolling through social media or munching on junk food, we can lose the ability to concentrate on tasks that need deep thought and time. But remember, while dopamine is vital for our motivation and rewards, it also can steer us off course. Today, dopamine's role in our lives has taken a strange turn. We're constantly bombarded with things that spike our dopamine levels, which can overexcite our brain's reward system. This creates a loop that makes it tough to concentrate on tasks that need patience and effort. Because of this overload, many of us end up feeling anxious, restless, and unfulfilled, leaving us distracted and disinterested. To really grasp how dopamine affects us, it's essential to look at how it shapes motivation and our approach to different tasks. Dopamine doesn't just make us feel good, it also influences our decision-making. When we do something enjoyable, our dopamine levels shoot up, and our brains tell us, "Hey, that was great." That's how habits form. But it doesn't stop there. Dopamine is also behind our anticipation of rewards. Sometimes we get even more dopamine when we think about something fun than when we actually do it. Think about it. Have you ever scrolled through social media, mindlessly liking posts? Before you know it, hours have gone by. That's dopamine in action. Every swipe, every like gives you tiny hits of dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and pushing you to keep scrolling. It feels good for a bit, but soon enough, you're left wanting more. This shows how chasing dopamine can lead to a cycle of quick pleasure that leaves us empty in the long run. Over time, this cycle of quick satisfaction can steal joy from things that require patience, like studying or working on a project. It's a bit of a paradox. We chase rewards, yet we get stuck in a loop of instant gratification that prevents us from focusing deeply on what truly matters. This constant craving for quick hits can keep us from diving into the focused work needed for real growth and mastery. One major challenge we face today is how easy it is to get hooked on quick dopamine hits. Scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, or gaming for hours, these activities can lead to addiction, often without us even noticing. Dopamine works here much like it does with drugs or alcohol. The more you get, the more you crave to feel the same joy. And stopping gets tougher. To grasp dopamine addiction, you need to understand the brain's reward system. Every time we do something that releases dopamine, our brain shouts, "This is great, do it again." The more we repeat these behaviors, the more dependent we become on that dopamine high. It creates a cycle of wanting and seeking rewards. Over time, our brains can become less responsive to those dopamine releases. So we end up needing even more stimulation to feel satisfied. That's why checking your phone a couple of times can spiral into an addiction to social media. Or why munching on junk food can turn into a need for comfort food when you're feeling stressed or anxious. But it gets worse than just addiction. This constant craving can cloud your mind. You might feel drained, distracted, and lose sight of your goals. Focusing on tasks like working on a project or studying can feel like a struggle. Those quick, easy rewards often drown out the urge to engage in more meaningful activities. This can lead to procrastination and make it hard to tackle anything that needs patience and effort. The good news? Just as you can get addicted to distractions, you can retrain your brain to cherish deep work and meaningful tasks. The first step is understanding how dopamine works and how it influences your behavior. Once you see its effect, you can start making choices that align with your long-term goals instead of just your short-term wants. Balancing dopamine and mental health is tricky, but it's key to getting it right. Dealing with issues like anxiety, depression, and stress can be tough. When our dopamine levels go high all the time because of constant stimulation, it creates mental chaos. This overstimulation can make it hard to focus or even relax. You might feel anxious, restless, or always need validation from others. In severe cases, it can lead to serious mental health problems like depression and burnout. On the flip side, when dopamine levels drop too low, we can feel indifferent, unmotivated, and disconnected from things that used to bring us joy. This back and forth with dopamine can trap us in a cycle of negativity, always looking for outside sources of stimulation to fill a void. It's a tricky balance, and when dopamine gets out of whack, it can really impact our overall well-being. But the answer isn't to cut out dopamine entirely. It's about recalibrating how we interact with it. A dopamine detox lets your brain hit reset and regain control over its reward system. This helps you find joy and satisfaction in activities that really matter, like deep work and personal growth. Over time, this reset can help you build healthier habits, boosting not just your productivity, but also your mental health and emotional balance. As we go through this book, remember, understanding dopamine isn't about blaming it or seeing it as the enemy. It's about learning how to work with it. Dopamine is a key player in our brain's reward system. When we use it wisely, it can drive us to achieve amazing things. But in today's world of endless distractions and quick fixes, we often forget how to manage our dopamine levels effectively. The first step to regaining your focus, doing deep work, and living a fulfilling life is to understand how dopamine works and how to use it to your advantage. Let's dive into the dopamine detox process together and start resetting your brain for success. Chapter 2: The Modern Dopamine Trap. With constant connectivity, information overload, and endless distractions, it's no surprise that staying focused on meaningful long-term goals is one of today's biggest challenges. Everywhere we look, there's something vying for our attention. A message ping, a viral video, or the need to check social media. These distractions are crafted to grab us, hijacking our dopamine systems and pulling us back for more. We live in a time of instant pleasure, where chasing immediate gratification shapes our choices. Often, it does more harm than good. This chapter dives into the modern trap of dopamine, the way our lives are filled with distractions, keeping us in a loop of quick thrills and constant buzz. It's tough to focus on the deep work we really need to succeed. Think about it. Have you ever found yourself scrolling mindlessly through social media or binge-watching videos for hours? You're not alone. It's become almost second nature to many of us. Platforms and apps have perfected the art of creating content that hooks us, leading us into a never-ending cycle of likes, notifications, and updates. But behind that shiny surface lies something powerful: dopamine. Every time we check our phones, scroll through our feeds, or chat online, our brains release dopamine, rewarding us and nudging us to do it again. This constant buzz builds a loop that's hard to escape. The more we engage, the more our brains yearn for that next hit of dopamine. Sure, these instant rewards feel good in the moment, but they come with a hefty price. We start to expect quick pleasure, making it hard to focus on tasks that need patience and deep thinking. This shift isn't just about personal choices. It's been deliberately designed by tech companies and app creators to keep us glued. The infinite scroll, those tempting notifications, the endless recommendations, everything is tuned to set off our dopamine systems and keep us craving more. While these platforms help us stay connected and entertained, they also highlight how modern tech can distract us from what really matters. Our brains have been hijacked, creating a culture filled with distractions. Now we often chase quick thrills rather than focusing on deep work and sustained concentration. In this digital age, Distractions are everywhere and even encouraged. It's tough to zero in on tasks that need deep thinking, problem solving, or creativity. This craving for instant satisfaction isn't just about social media either. It's a wider trend. Think about binge watching shows, spending hours on video games, or consuming news. These habits are all about quick bursts of fun, but they can hurt our mental health and productivity. The more time we dedicate to these high dopamine activities, the more our brains crave those quick rewards. As a result, it becomes harder to tackle challenging tasks that need concentration. We start to prefer easy, pleasurable activities, making it tricky to stay focused on work, learning, or personal growth. We face a real contradiction today: instant gratification versus long-term fulfillment. Everything is just a button push away. Food arrives at our door, movies stream instantly, and entertainment is always on tap. This easy access to quick pleasures shifts how we manage our time and attention. Instead of diving into rewarding tasks like working on a tough project or chasing personal goals, we're conditioned to seek instant rewards and quick fixes. This change has deep consequences for how we focus and achieve meaningful work. In the past, success meant patience, persistence, and hard work. Whether learning a new skill, building a career, or nurturing relationships, we understood that rewards took time. But now, with a culture that prizes instant gratification, it's tougher to commit to long-term efforts. We expect quick results, and when they don't come right away, it can be frustrating. It can be super frustrating, overwhelming, and even discouraging. We start to see work, learning, and personal growth as just heavy chores rather than rewarding experiences. The cycle driven by dopamine makes us feel torn between what feels good right now and what we actually need for true happiness and fulfillment down the line. The issue with chasing after that dopamine rush is that those quick fixes don't bring lasting joy. Sure, checking your phone or watching a funny clip gives a moment of happiness, but those moments are short-lived and don't add to any real sense of achievement or joy. In fact, they often leave us feeling drained, scattered, and unsatisfied. You might spend hours scrolling through your phone or binge-watching TV, but in the end, you've got little to show for it in terms of your growth, productivity, or progress towards your goals. Over time, this habit can chip away at our sense of fulfillment, making us feel disconnected from what we truly aim for. To break out of this cycle, we need to shift our focus from the instant gratification of distractions. Instead, let's prioritize activities that need patience, persistence, and a deep commitment. This doesn't mean we have to cut out all sources of dopamine. After all, having fun and enjoying life is important. But we do need to find a balance between chasing short-term highs and pursuing the long-term satisfaction that comes from hard work, personal growth, and achieving meaningful goals. When we grasp the trick that instant gratification plays against long-term fulfillment, we can start to realign our focus and energy on what truly matters. Now, when it comes to how dopamine fuels unproductive habits, the modern world is set up to keep us distracted. Just think about how our brains react to dopamine. Each time we do something that releases dopamine, like checking our phones, munching on junk food, or diving into a quick entertainment fix, our brain gets a little pleasure boost. This makes us want to do it again and again. Over time, this creates a feedback loop that becomes part of our everyday lives and makes breaking out of these unhealthy habits tough. The reason it's so hard to shake them off is all down to how dopamine reshapes our brain's connections. Dopamine isn't just about feeling good in the moment. It actually strengthens the connections in our brain tied to the actions that release it. So, every time we check our phones or enjoy something fun, we're essentially making those habits stronger. It's why mindless scrolling on social media or binge-watching TV can be so tough to stop. The more we do these things, the more our brains want them, trapping us in a cycle of distraction. This can leave us feeling unproductive and stressed. The issue with these habits is that they don't lead to anything meaningful. Sure, they bring a little pleasure up front, but they hardly ever help us reach our long-term goals or grow as individuals. In fact, they often get in the way, making it harder to focus on what really matters. This constant chase for quick satisfaction keeps us stuck, preventing us from achieving the deep work and real progress we want. To break this cycle, we need to pay attention to how dopamine shapes our actions. By recognizing the link between our behaviors and the dopamine rewards, we can start making more conscious choices about where we put our time and energy. This awareness is the first step to regaining control over our focus and productivity. Instead of letting dopamine-driven urges steer our choices, we can focus on activities that help us meet our long-term dreams. We can create new pathways in our brain that facilitate deep work, encourage personal growth, and lead to real satisfaction. Remember, the modern traps of distraction aren't something we have to just accept. Even if our surroundings are full of noise, we have the power to overcome instant gratification. By understanding how dopamine influences us and recognizing its role in our habits, we can actively take steps to reclaim our attention and our lives. This is where it all begins, a life that values serious work, personal growth, and real fulfillment from within, not just the quick hits of joy from distractions. Chapter 3. The Science of Deep Work in Our Modern World. With all the information swirling around us, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We often chase after instant gratification without realizing it. We forget about the hard work, focus, and patience that real success demands. But there's one skill that stands out. It can unlock amazing potential and lead to lasting success: deep work. So what is deep work? And why does it feel so out of reach in our busy lives? Deep work is the ability to concentrate fully on a challenging task without distractions. It's a level of focus that lets you stretch your mental abilities, allowing you to create high-quality work in a shorter time. In a world filled with distractions, this kind of focused work is gold. It's become one of the key skills anyone can build. In this chapter, we'll dig into the science of deep work. We'll uncover its big benefits and figure out why it's so hard to achieve today. Most importantly, we'll learn how to train ourselves to reach this state of intense focus. So what exactly is deep work? It's all about focused, undistracted effort. Deep work isn't just about clocking extra hours at your desk or grinding harder. It's about working smarter. It's about directing your energy and attention to tasks that need serious brain power and creativity. On the flip side, shallow work covers those easy, repetitive tasks that don't require much thought. Deep work stands apart because it demands full attention and long stretches of focus. Activities like writing a detailed report, solving tough problems, creating art, coding software, or preparing for an important test all share one thing: they need your full concentration without interruptions. The main difference between deep work and shallow work: it's all about how engaged your mind has to be. Shallow work, like checking emails, scrolling through social media, or sitting in meetings, barely taxes your brain. These are tasks you can do almost on autopilot, and they often don't really lead anywhere worthwhile. Distractions can pull us away from what truly matters. But deep work is all about diving fully into what you're doing. It takes focus, energy, and the ability to shut out those distractions. When you really engage in deep work, you can enter what's known as a flow state. In that state, you get so involved in your task that it feels like time just flies by. That's when you're at your best, most productive, most creative, and really hitting your peak performance. The good news? Deep work is a skill you can build. It doesn't come easy for everyone, especially in a world set up to keep us distracted and always plugged in. Yet the rewards of deep work are huge. Being able to concentrate deeply for long stretches is crucial not just for doing well at work or school, but also for personal growth, creativity, and finding satisfaction. When you dive into deep work, you not only check off more items on your list, but you also produce higher quality work, learn new skills, and feel that fulfilling sense of achievement that comes from doing something right. The cognitive perks of deep work are incredible. It's about unlocking your brain's potential. When you commit to deep work, you're not just ticking off tasks, you're enhancing your brain's power to tackle tough challenges. This all relates to neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to adapt by forming new connections. By focusing deeply, especially when things get tough, you're strengthening those connections and boosting your brain's info processing ability. That's why deep work is more than just finishing tasks. It's about growing intellectually and creatively. A big benefit of engaging in deep work is how it sharpens your problem-solving skills. The more you work deeply, the better you get at solving complex issues that need creative thinking. Deep work helps you tap into your brain's full capacity, encouraging you to think critically, analyze information, and make connections that might otherwise go unnoticed. Through sustained focus, you access higher-level thinking skills and find breakthroughs that you wouldn't achieve otherwise. Plus, deep work boosts mental clarity and hones your sharpness. When you dive deep into a task, you sharpen your decision-making skills. You push aside distractions that can muddy your judgment, helping you make smarter choices. Another key benefit of this focused work is that it boosts your working memory. This is the brain's knack for holding and juggling information for short bursts. It's vital for solving problems and learning new things. Deep work challenges your working memory by forcing you to juggle various bits of information as you analyze them. Over time, this makes your memory more efficient. You'll think quicker, remember better, and operate at a higher mental level. Plus, deep work sparks creativity. When distractions don't pull you away, your mind has the freedom to roam. You can connect different ideas and find fresh solutions. Without constant interruptions, you're free to explore new possibilities and unlock your creative potential. Deep work also helps reduce mental fatigue, allowing you to keep your energy and focus over longer spans, crucial for staying creatively productive. As you practice this focused work, you build mental strength. It gets easier to tackle tougher challenges and push your limits. In today's world, getting into deep work isn't just about knowing its perks. It's about beating the distractions that stop us from focusing. We're always connected. Notifications and distractions are everywhere. Our devices are designed to keep us engaged, pulling our attention in countless directions. This constant buzz makes it tough to concentrate enough for deep work. One major hurdle is something called attention residue. This happens when your focus is split between different tasks. The leftover mental clutter from those distractions hangs around, making it hard to dive fully into what you're doing. When you check your email or scroll through social media while working on something, your brain doesn't just switch back to the task at hand. It hangs on to those emails and messages, which can clutter your mind. This leftover distraction eats away at your focus and hinders your performance. The more you allow these interruptions, the heavier that mental baggage becomes, making deep focus harder to achieve. To tackle this, you need to take action and eliminate those distractions. Start by designing a workspace that supports deep thinking. This could mean silencing notifications, finding a quiet spot, or using apps that block distracting websites. But don't forget, it's not just about removing outside distractions. You've got to work on controlling the internal ones too, like the urge to check your phone or procrastinate. Building mental discipline is crucial for mastering deep work, and it takes practice and dedication. Training your brain to concentrate involves getting better at resisting temptation and redirecting your focus when distractions pop up. One helpful strategy is called focus sprints. With this method, you work intensely for a set period, usually 25 to 50 minutes, followed by quick breaks. This trains your mind to sustain focus for longer periods while allowing it time to recharge. Over time, as you stick with focused sprints, you'll grow your mental stamina and enhance your ability to focus during those crucial work sessions. Another practice that can help is mindfulness meditation. This technique teaches you to notice your thoughts and gently bring your attention back to your work whenever distractions arise. It strengthens your ability to stay present and engaged, even with many interruptions around you. Remember, the aim of deep work isn't just to check off tasks. It's about training your brain to operate at its best and fully commit to the things that truly matter. By enhancing your focus, you'll tap into your real potential, create better quality work, and find greater satisfaction in what you do. Chapter 4. The Science Behind Dopamine and Deep Work. To really grasp deep work, we first need to understand how our brain's reward system operates. Deep work is all about intense focus and concentration, pushing our mental limits. This is closely tied to dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure, motivation, and reward. But it's not just about feeling good. Dopamine plays a vital role in how we learn, remember, and find satisfaction in reaching our long-term goals. In this chapter, we'll dive into the neuroscience of dopamine and its connection to deep work. We'll look at how dopamine can help us focus but also trip us up sometimes. Plus, we'll explore how we can adjust our brain's reward system to support consistent, high-quality work. Dopamine is often called the motivation molecule because it drives us to chase our goals. Whenever we encounter something rewarding, like a tasty piece of chocolate, a phone notification, or a reachable goal, dopamine gets released. But its role goes deeper than just pleasure. It keeps our brain's reward system in check, updating us on how we're doing and encouraging us to repeat actions that lead to good results. That's why dopamine is key for learning and forming habits. It helps us identify behaviors that bring rewards and pushes us to do them again, creating a cycle that strengthens those habits. What's interesting is that dopamine isn't only released when we get rewards, it also fires up when we expect them. This is why striving for a goal feels so motivating, even if the payoff is a while off. Our brains enjoy the journey, not just the finish line. This anticipation drives us, guiding our actions as we pursue deep work. Dopamine plays a key role when we're working on tasks that need our full attention and effort. As we make progress, our brains release dopamine. This keeps us motivated to push through tough times. This surge of dopamine strengthens our ability to focus deeply and helps us stay involved in challenging tasks for longer. But there's a catch. That same reward system can get thrown off by the pull of instant gratification. This is where the tug-of-war happens between distractions driven by dopamine and the need for deep work. In today's world, we're bombarded by notifications, social media, and other quick rewards clamoring for our focus. Our dopamine system becomes a mixed blessing. On one side, it encourages us to chase long-term goals by rewarding our progress. On the flip side, the constant stream of immediate gratification, like checking our phones or diving into online fun, overloads our brains with dopamine. This leads us to prefer short-lived, shallow rewards, which can undermine our ability to concentrate on the meaningful, long-term work that brings real success. Getting a grip on how dopamine works and how it fuels our motivation is crucial. We want to harness its power productively instead of letting it derail our focus on what's truly important. In today's constantly connected landscape, we're faced with endless distractions right from the moment we wake up. Notifications, emails, and messages are constantly pulling at our attention. These distractions aren't just simple interruptions. They're cleverly designed to tap into our brain's dopamine system. Every time we pick up our phone, reply to a message, or scroll through social media, we get a dose of dopamine. This creates a loop where our brains start expecting those regular bursts of excitement, which makes it harder to focus on tasks that don't give us the same quick rewards. So the dopamine system is essentially a tool that companies and platforms use to keep us engaged with their content. The more we dive into these platforms, the more dopamine we get, reinforcing the habit of constantly checking and scrolling. This cycle is part of what's known as the attention economy. Deep work is getting tougher these days, and there are some big reasons why. First off, we live in an attention economy, where our focus is a prized possession. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube are built to snag our attention and keep us hooked. They use tricky algorithms and pesky notifications that keep us coming back for more. Each time we engage, our brains get a little hit of dopamine, which feels rewarding and makes us want to do it again. This cycle makes it hard to break away from the constant buzz of digital distractions. Our brains start to crave those quick dopamine hits, which pulls us away from the deep focus needed for serious work. On top of that, distraction has become the norm. We've grown used to juggling multiple tasks and distractions at once. Multitasking? It might sound smart, but it actually kills productivity. Each time we jump from one thing to another, like checking emails, replying to texts, or scrolling through social media, we're shattering our focus. This constant switching messes with our ability to dive deep into uninterrupted work, which is crucial for real achievements. Plus, it ramps up our cognitive load, making it harder to process and remember information. In a nutshell, the attention economy is feeding our distraction addiction, pulling us away from tasks requiring real concentration. But there's a glimmer of hope. Understanding how dopamine drives this cycle helps us take back control and focus on what really matters. The good news is, our brains aren't stuck like this forever. Thanks to neuroplasticity, our brains can rewire themselves, forming new connections. This means we can break free from craving instant rewards and develop the skill for deep work. The first step: acknowledge how dopamine shapes our habits, both good and bad. That's where change begins. Understanding how our minds influence our actions is key. With this awareness, we can intentionally shift our focus from distractions to tasks that need our full attention and effort. One powerful way to rewire your brain is by forming habits that foster deep work. We need habits that boost long-term focus, not those that lead us to constant distractions. A great method is to have dopamine detox periods. During these times, we step away from things like our phones, TV, and social media. This break allows our brains to reset, cutting the cycle of constant stimulation. Over time, as we practice these detox waves, our brains learn to find joy in the deep work itself, instead of the quick hits of distraction. Another effective tactic for reshaping our brains is embracing delayed gratification. Rather than chasing instant rewards, we can train ourselves to target long-term goals and enjoy the satisfaction that comes from meeting them. By setting clear, measurable goals and breaking them into smaller, manageable tasks, we build a sense of progress and achievement that keeps feeding our brains with dopamine without needing constant distractions. The aim is to shift our brain's reward system from short-term fixes to long-term fulfillment, creating a more steady approach to motivation. Remember, deep work isn't just about being productive. It's about finding meaning and purpose in what we do. Dopamine isn't only released with pleasure, it's also present when we engage in meaningful activities. When you dedicate yourself to deep work, you're also investing in your growth, creativity, and intellect. The joy of completing a tough challenge or tackling a tricky problem brings lasting satisfaction. By aligning your deep work with your core values and goals, you create a strong sense of purpose. In this chapter, we dive into how dopamine works. It's the fuel behind our focus and what helps us perform at our best. We've looked at the science of dopamine and how it affects our motivation, rewards, and distractions. Dopamine isn't just about those quick pleasures. It helps us understand how our brains handle both hard work and distractions. When we become aware of how dopamine influences our actions, we can start changing our brain's reward system. This shift helps us move away from seeking short-term rewards and instead focus on long-term fulfillment. The journey into deep work is about working smarter, not just harder. It's about using dopamine's power to maintain meaningful effort over time. As we look deeper into mastering our craft, we'll learn how to harness this understanding to build new habits, beat distractions, and reach our biggest goals. Now, let's talk about overcoming resistance and building the deep work habit. If you've tried to dive into deep work, you know it's not always a walk in the park. Even though we know how crucial deep work is for tapping into our full potential, we often resist what could give us the most reward. This inner struggle, fighting focus and discipline, is one of the toughest hurdles in developing deep work habits. It's like our brains are set up to resist what would actually make us stronger, more focused, and successful. But why does this resistance happen? How do we get past it? In this chapter, we'll look at what causes this resistance. We'll break down the psychological and physical reasons behind it and discover why our brains often shy away from the discomfort that comes with staying focused. Most importantly, we'll share practical tips for building deep work habits that can hold strong against the pull of procrastination and distractions. Resistance often stems from our brains wanting comfort. This desire is deep-rooted, dating back to our ancestors who needed to avoid pain and conserve energy. Our brains naturally seek quick rewards, steering clear of tasks that feel tough or uncomfortable. Deep work, which demands intense focus and mental energy, is the complete opposite of what our brains want to pursue. The brain loves comfort, which is why we easily slip into familiar patterns. When it comes to managing cravings and withdrawal, procrastination becomes a trap, especially with tasks that are both important and tough. Our brains resist diving into deep focus because it feels overwhelming. This pushback grows stronger in a world filled with endless distractions. With instant gratification, just a click away. From social media to binge-worthy shows, our brains start craving those quick dopamine hits instead of the long-term satisfaction that comes from dedicated work. As soon as we settle down to focus, our minds automatically hunt for distractions, no matter how minor. It's like they're on a mission to avoid the discomfort that comes with maintaining concentration. The urge to check your phone, read a new article, or simply get up for a quick break feels almost irresistible. This is resistance kicking in, a mental force pulling you toward the easier path of distractions. But here's the thing, knowing about resistance is the first step to beating it. It's not about your willpower or how disciplined you are, it's just how your brain is wired. If you recognize this, you can approach it more gently and with better strategies. Resistance doesn't mean you're weak. It's just the natural pushback when you're tackling challenging tasks. Once you grasp this idea, you can start building the habits and skills that help you break through resistance and dive into deep work, where your brain performs at its best and you achieve real results. The power of routine is key. Turning deep work into a daily habit can be one of the best ways to beat resistance and make it a regular part of your life. Sticking to a set schedule for focused work takes away the mental hassle of deciding when to work or what to focus on. Rather than leaning on fluctuating willpower, you create a reliable structure that trains your brain to expect those times of concentration. Establishing a routine acts as a mental cue, signaling to your brain that it's time to focus and dive into deep work, no matter how you're feeling at that moment. Over time, your brain will start to link specific times of the day with this deep work, making it easier for you to get into a concentrated state. The trick to creating a successful deep work routine is consistency. First, pinpoint when you're most alert and ready to tackle deep work. For many, this might be early in the morning or right after a break. Once you know your prime work times, schedule them as must-do appointments. Treat them like important meetings. The more you stick to these dedicated deep work sessions, the more they'll become part of your daily life. Eventually, deep work turns into a habit, something you don't have to think twice about. Your brain will start to expect and even crave those intense focus moments. Meanwhile, the resistance that once felt overwhelming will start to fade. Beyond consistency, set clear, specific goals for each deep work session. This gives you direction and purpose, making it easier to stay engaged and motivated. Instead of just sitting down with no plan, clarify what you want to achieve. Whether it's writing a set number of words, solving a particular issue, or finishing a task, having a clear goal gives you something to reach for. Plus, accomplishing that goal brings its own reward. This clarity helps keep distractions at bay, as your mind has a clear focus and can quickly return to the task at hand when interruptions happen. Routine and clarity create a powerful cycle. The more you engage in deep work, the easier it gets. You'll develop a habit of sustained focus and productivity. But it's not just about routine. It's crucial to shift your mindset. The discomfort that often comes with deep work, the mental fatigue, frustration, and struggle, can make you want to avoid those tasks. Instead of seeing this discomfort as a warning sign, try embracing it. To take a break or stop, it's essential to see it as a normal part of doing deep work. This shift in mindset is key for building resilience and staying focused over time. When you start viewing discomfort as a sign that you're engaging in meaningful work, it transforms into something you can accept rather than avoid. One great way to embrace the discomfort of deep work is to break big tasks into smaller, manageable pieces. Large projects can feel overwhelming and make starting seem impossible. But when you chop them up, it lowers the mental wall you have to climb over to get going. Each little step becomes a mini goal, and finishing them gives you a boost of progress that keeps your motivation alive. This method also helps prevent burnout from trying to do too much all at once. Instead of fixating on a distant end goal that feels unreachable, you concentrate on the next immediate step. This keeps you anchored and present in what you're doing. Another important mindset shift is to view deep work as a skill that gets better with practice. Just like building muscle at the gym, the more you do deep work, the stronger your focus becomes. At first, deep work might feel tough or draining, and it takes time for your brain to adjust. But with regular practice, you build cognitive stamina, and what once seemed overwhelming becomes much easier. You start reaping the rewards of deep work, the joy of achieving meaningful goals, a sense of mental growth, and the confidence that comes from consistently pushing yourself to excel. This shift from dodging discomfort to accepting it is one of the strongest tools you have to overcome resistance and build a lasting deep work habit. In this chapter, we've looked at the mental barriers to deep work and offered ways to tackle them. Resistance is a natural reaction, but by getting to the heart of it, setting clear goals, and embracing the struggle of focused effort, you can break through these obstacles and make deep work part of your routine. To make a lasting impact in our lives, we need to build the habit of deep work. This isn't just about getting more done. It's about boosting our focus, learning new skills, and ultimately doing work that reflects our true potential. The fight against distractions is always there, but with the right tools and mindset, we can train our brains to dive into deep, focused work that brings real success and satisfaction. This chapter talks about breaking through the resistance that keeps us from diving into deep work by understanding what's going on in our minds. It highlights the need to establish a routine and be willing to face discomfort. You'll get practical tips on how to build deep work habits and turn challenges into chances for growth. By tackling the inner hurdles that block our focus, we can build a more productive, meaningful, and fulfilling connection to our work. Next up, managing your workspace. The space where we work is crucial for our ability to get into deep work, even if we often overlook it. Whether it's the noise at the office, the distractions at home, or those tempting digital devices, our environment can either help or hurt our focus. The more we dive into mastering deep work, the clearer it becomes that success isn't just about having the right mindset or routine. It's also about shaping a space that boosts focus, cuts down distractions, and encourages productivity. In this chapter, we'll look at how to set up your physical and digital workspace to get the most out of deep work. We'll discuss ways to lessen distractions and create an environment that enhances your brain power. You'll learn to build mental and physical setups that support long-lasting, meaningful work. By the end, you'll know how to design your surroundings to get rid of barriers and create success. Creating a distraction-free zone is key. Distractions, whether they come from within or outside, are the enemy of focus. They break up our attention and pull us away from what we need to do, making it tough to keep up sustained mental effort. The modern world is packed with distractions. From those constant phone notifications to the buzz of chat at the office or the temptation of online entertainment, it all interrupts our focus. These interruptions lower the quality of our work. Every time we're sidetracked, we have to refocus, which takes time and mental energy. Switching between tasks all the time can lead to cognitive fatigue, making it harder to dive into deep, meaningful work. To tackle this, it's crucial to create a space that minimizes distractions. Start by shaping your environment at home or in the office. Set aside a specific area for focused work, away from interruptions if you can. Look for a quiet room or a corner that's out of the main traffic. In this space, cut out the typical modern distractions. No TV, no social media, and no personal devices that might tempt you with notifications or messages. This spot should be strictly reserved for the focused work that demands your full concentration. Having a distraction-free zone means you can really dive into your tasks without constantly needing to recover your focus after every interruption. But creating this space isn't just about eliminating physical distractions. It's about tackling the internal ones too. Our brains are always buzzing with thoughts, worries, and a never-ending to-do list. To manage these distractions, try setting clear intentions before your deep work sessions. Take a moment to jot down what you want to achieve and set specific, measurable goals. This helps sharpen your focus and quiets the mental chatter that can keep you from your work. By carving out a dedicated space for deep work and prepping your mind for focus, you boost your chances of engaging in high-quality work and lessen the chances of your attention drifting away. Now let's talk about technology. These days, it's one of the biggest sources of distraction. From the moment we wake up, we're bombarded with digital noise. emails, texts, social media alerts, and a non-stop stream of notifications. Sure, technology makes things easier in many ways, but it also demands our attention all the time. Every ping, beep, or buzz pulls us away from what we're trying to do. When we dive into deep work, it can be tough to stay focused with so many distractions around us. Digital distractions are a big issue. They make it hard for us to really get into those challenging tasks. To tackle this, it's important to set some limits with technology. Use it as a tool for deep work, not as a distraction. Start by turning off notifications that aren't crucial. This one small move can seriously boost your focus because you won't be drowning in constant alerts. If you need to concentrate deeply, try leaving your phone in another room. You can also use website blockers to keep away from distracting sites or set strict time limits for checking your emails and social media. These actions aren't just about cutting out distractions. They're about creating a space that encourages your focus and boosts your productivity. By drawing clear lines with technology, you make room in your mind for deep work. It's also useful to pick certain times during the day, specifically for checking emails and social media. Plan these moments ahead of time and treat them like they're set in stone. By confining your tech use to these windows, you stop it from stealing your attention during the day. This way, you stay in charge of your digital space instead of letting your devices take over. With less digital chatter, your brain can really zero in on what you're doing, leading to more impactful, fulfilling work. Technology can be a fantastic helper in our tasks, but we need to manage it carefully to keep it from being a constant distraction. Now let's talk about preparing ourselves for deep work. While creating a distraction-free zone is key, it's just as vital to get your mind and body ready for the brain power needed to stay focused. Deep work can be quite mentally demanding. It calls for concentration, problem-solving, and creativity. To perform at your best, your mind and body need to be in great shape. Start with physical readiness. When your body is well rested, you can focus longer. Meanwhile, if you're tired or uncomfortable, it's way tougher to stay engaged in deep work. To get ready for deep work, focus on sleep first. Prioritize it, eat well, and get regular exercise to keep your energy up. Your physical health is key for mental sharpness. It really affects how well you can focus and tackle demanding tasks. Next up, mental prep. Before you jump into deep work, take a moment to get your mind in gear. A short ritual can do wonders. Just take a few deep breaths, or maybe meditate for a couple of minutes. You could even jot down what you want to achieve in that session. These little routines help clear your head and set your intentions straight. Start each session with a purpose. Remind yourself why this work matters and how it fits into your bigger goals. This purpose will help you push through when things get tough and keep your focus sharp. And don't forget about breaks. Deep work can drain you mentally, so taking breaks is crucial to staying focused. Try the 90-minute work blocks, then take a short break afterward. Use that time to stretch, take a walk, or listen to some music. These breaks recharge your brain, helping you stay energized for the next round of work. By keeping both your mind and body in check, you can make the most of your time spent on deep work. Each session will become more productive, focused, and satisfying. In this chapter, we've looked at how your environment is vital for deep work. We've talked about creating a distraction-free space that boosts focus, setting tech boundaries to manage distractions, and priming your mind and body for what's ahead. Designing your space isn't just about removing what distracts you. It's about building an environment that encourages meaningful work. By improving both your physical and mental spaces, you'll enhance your ability to dive into deep work and really boost your productivity, focus, and creativity as you move forward. Keep in mind, deep work is more than just hard work. It's about crafting an environment that helps you succeed. This chapter highlights the need for a workspace that encourages focus, less distractions, and preparing both your body and mind for deep tasks. By organizing your physical and digital spaces and embracing routines that boost your energy and concentration, you can set the stage for deep work and tap into your fullest potential. Now let's dive into Chapter 7, The Art of Keeping Your Focus Strong. It's all about building the endurance needed for deep work. Our minds are powerful. They can create, concentrate, and solve problems in stunning ways. But let's be honest, staying focused for a long time isn't easy. In a world full of distractions, with constant information and interruptions, deep concentration feels like a rare skill. But the good news? Just like any skill, you can train your mind to hold its focus for longer periods if you practice and stay intentional about it. In this chapter, we'll look at how to boost your focus over time. We'll discuss strategies to keep your mind sharp and explore both mental and physical practices that keep you energized during your toughest work sessions. This isn't about pushing yourself to work longer or harder. It's about understanding focus, both mentally and physically, and learning how to keep your attention on deep work without burning out. By building cognitive endurance, you can do more in less time and unleash the true power of focused concentration. First things first, let's understand cognitive fatigue, which is why staying focused can feel tough. Building cognitive endurance means tackling that challenge head-on. Unlike physical endurance, where you build muscle by pushing your limits, cognitive endurance is about training your brain to keep its attention locked in, despite distractions or mental fatigue. But here's the catch. Our brains aren't built to stay focused for hours straight. Cognitive fatigue is that mental tiredness that creeps in after a long stretch of intense focus, and it's a natural reaction to the demands of deep work. Our brains use a ton of energy when we're focusing on tasks. Just like our muscles, they can get worn out if we push them for too long. That's why after a marathon of deep work, you might feel completely wiped out, like your brain is running on fumes. The mental resources needed to keep your attention locked in are limited. Without proper care, your ability to focus can slip away. On top of that, distractions are everywhere. External ones, like noise or the lure of scrolling through social media, can break your concentration. They make your brain switch gears, wasting precious mental energy. Then there are internal distractions, racing thoughts, anxiety, or doubts, that add to the struggle. Each time you lose focus, whether it's from an outside interruption or a wandering mind, it takes time and energy to get back on track. The more often this happens, the more drained you feel, and staying focused becomes even tougher. This cycle of starting and stopping doesn't just slow you down, it also leaves you mentally exhausted, making deep work feel harder over time. To combat cognitive fatigue, the first step is understanding it. It's not about just pushing through the tiredness, it's about figuring out how to manage and recover from it. By using strategies that ease mental strain and allow for downtime, you can build the stamina needed for longer periods of deep work without burning out or losing your edge. Building that cognitive endurance takes time and effort. It's about being consistent, intentional, and knowing how much your brain can handle. The goal isn't to push until you're drained. It's to train your mind to stay focused longer while keeping clarity and energy. And here's a powerful tip. Regular breaks are key to avoiding mental burnout. It might seem odd, but taking time off can help you focus better for longer stretches. Breaks aren't weaknesses or signs that you lack discipline. They're essential for building your cognitive stamina. In fact, taking breaks is crucial for keeping your mind clear and avoiding burnout. Research shows that our brains work best when we shift between intense focus and some downtime. Just like a marathon runner needs to pace themselves, your brain needs regular breaks to perform well over time. Without them, you'll start to feel mentally drained and your concentration will slip. Even a quick break can help recharge your brain, letting you dive back into work with fresh energy. There are various ways to add breaks into your deep work routine. One popular method is the Pomodoro technique. This involves working hard for 25 minutes, then enjoying a 5-minute break. After 4 of those cycles, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. This system helps your brain recover between focused work, so you don't run out of energy too quickly. Plus, it keeps you feeling a sense of urgency, knowing a break is just around the corner, making it easier to fend off distractions. But the Pomodoro technique isn't the only way to structure your work and rest. The important part is finding a rhythm that suits you. Maybe you prefer longer work periods with fewer breaks or shorter bursts. The goal? Balance your focus with recovery so your brain stays sharp, alert, and ready for deep work. It's also vital that your breaks really help you recharge. Simply stepping away isn't enough. You need to engage in activities that are totally different from what you're working on. Think about going for a walk, stretching, practicing mindfulness, or even meditating. Physical activities are especially good at boosting your cognitive energy because they get the blood flowing to your brain and ease the tension from sitting too long. These restorative breaks let your mind reset so you can come back to your deep work energized and focused. Finally, while breaks are key for maintaining mental endurance, building the ability to focus for a long time also takes practice. Just like building physical strength, you can boost your brain's endurance through practice. The more you work on keeping your focus, the better you get at it. Start small. Gradually make your focus sessions longer and more challenging. If you're new to deep work, don't rush into long stretches right away. That can lead to stress and burnout. Instead, find a balance. Push your focus limits gently without overwhelming your brain. Mindfulness is one great way to build mental resilience. It trains your brain to be present and focused. Mindfulness means paying attention to the now without judging yourself. This awareness helps you notice when your mind starts to wander. If you practice mindfulness regularly, you get better at bringing your focus back to what you're doing, even when distractions pop up. Plus, it clears away the mental mess, like anxiety or an endless stream of thoughts, that makes concentrating tough. With a clearer mind, it's much easier to dive into deep work. A growth mindset also plays a big part in building that mental strength. It's the belief that with effort and practice, you can develop your skills and intelligence. When you adopt this mindset, challenges turn into chances to grow instead of roadblocks. This attitude helps you push through those frustrating moments that happen during deep work. Instead of seeing distractions as failures, you recognize them as just part of the learning journey. Over time, this outlook builds your resilience, making it simpler to stay focused for extended periods and handle the discomfort that comes with deep work. In this chapter, we've looked at cognitive endurance and ways to strengthen your mental stamina for deep work. We've also touched on how cognitive fatigue can impact your focus. Our ability to focus is crucial. Taking regular breaks helps keep that focus sharp. It's not about working longer hours, it's about training your mind to be more effective over time. By managing your mental energy, taking restorative breaks, and adopting a growth mindset, you can build the endurance needed for deep, focused work, and this will skyrocket your productivity. You'll tap into your full potential and create your best work. Let's talk about rewiring the brain and the long-term effects of dopamine. When people hear about brain rewiring, they might imagine a dramatic overnight change, someone going from chaotic to calm in a flash. But the truth is, it's a slower process. It's not just about swapping bad habits for good ones. It's about changing how your brain processes information, responds to things, and stays motivated. Dopamine detox and its lasting effects highlight our brain's amazing ability to adapt, known as neuroplasticity. This chapter will dive into how dopamine discipline can reshape your brain for lasting focus. We'll explore the changes that come with regular practice and how you can take charge of your attention, creating a mind that supports you instead of pulling you away. It's not just about cutting out your worst urges or learning to say no. It's about fundamentally shifting how you interact with the world and yourself. And here's the thing, the brain isn't stuck. For ages, scientists thought that once we hit adulthood, our brain's structure was fixed. Sure, we could learn new things, but the core wiring, the habits, and the automatic patterns felt set in stone. But research on neuroplasticity has flipped that idea upside down. We now see that our brains are always changing based on our experiences, choices, and reinforced habits. Every time you resist the urge to mindlessly scroll or push through distractions, you're making a change. When you tackle a tough task without jumping between tabs, you're telling your brain, this is the path I want to strengthen. And your brain listens. This happens through something called synaptic pruning. The connections you use a lot get stronger and more efficient, while the ones you ignore start to fade. Every time you choose to dive deep, instead of getting distracted, you're not just resisting temptation, you're actually carving out new focused pathways in your mind. Over time, this becomes more noticeable. What used to feel hard, like resisting Instagram or sticking to a task for an hour, becomes second nature. The struggle eases not because the distractions disappear, but because your brain has learned to operate differently. This is what habit transformation is all about. It's not about forcing yourself to get through the day. It's about reshaping what feels normal. As you consistently detox from dopamine-driven habits and adopt more disciplined ones, those disciplined actions start to feel automatic. That's why taking small, steady actions is more effective than trying to make huge, unsustainable changes. You're not just surviving a week without your usual distractions. You're teaching your brain what really matters, what to expect, and who you want to be. That shift in identity, powered by neuroplasticity, is where lasting change grows. And this rewiring isn't just for productivity. It shifts how we find pleasure too. When your brain isn't overstimulated by constant newness, it starts to appreciate deeper, more meaningful experiences. A walk feels richer, a single page of a book can pull you in, and moments of stillness feel fulfilling instead of dull. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. It not only helps us change our actions, but also alters how we experience the world. Over time, you won't just act differently, you'll feel differently. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, that change is truly revolutionary. At first, when people start practicing dopamine discipline, they often struggle to focus. Their minds wander, they fidget, and they reach for their phones even when they shouldn't. But that's not failure. It's just the beginning of a journey. The modern mind is like a muscle that's weakened from not being used. Expecting it to function at its best right away just isn't realistic. But just like working out, regular effort brings real improvements over time. As you practice deep work and cut down on those high dopamine distractions, your brain starts to toughen up. Tasks that used to feel boring or impossible to finish in one go become easier. Eventually, they draw you in. This is one of the biggest perks of sticking to your dopamine detox. The way your ability to focus grows, both longer and stronger. This deeper focus doesn't just boost your productivity, it also transforms how you see time and attention. Instead of jumping from one task to another or feeling pressed for time, you start to find work becomes smoother and more connected. When you're in that zone, an hour of focused work can be way more valuable than 4 hours of scattered effort. As your brain gets used to this flow, it craves it. Those quick dopamine fixes from scrolling or mindless entertainment don't seem as enticing anymore. It's not that they're off limits. They just can't compete with the deep satisfaction of really getting into your work. That's when you know your focus has grown up. It doesn't feel forced anymore. Deep work starts to feel rewarding in itself. Plus, when you focus for a while, you build a loop of confidence. Each time you complete a tough task distraction-free, you prove to yourself that you can do meaningful work. This belief strengthens with each session, every project finished, and every hurdle crossed. You begin to see yourself not as someone who struggles with focus, but as someone who thrives on it. This shift in how you view yourself is one of the strongest outcomes of staying disciplined with your dopamine. It goes from putting in effort to simply being someone who gets the job done. And that change isn't fragile. It stays with you even when things get chaotic again. Once you're in charge of your attention, you hit a moment where you realize something important. You're not just at the mercy of your impulses. You're not stuck in a cycle of distraction. You're not a bystander to your brain's whims. You are in charge of your attention, and realizing that can change everything. When you understand that your surroundings, your habits, and even your thoughts are all within your control, focusing becomes something you craft instead of a restriction. Dopamine discipline isn't a list of rules. It's your power to shape your mind. And by doing that, you shape your life too. But this shift doesn't happen in an instant. It takes time, practice, and reflection. You start seeing which places help you focus and which ones derail your efforts. You tune into when you have the most energy and adjust your schedule around that. You design your digital space to support you, not sabotage you. Instead of just cutting out distractions, you create new habits that signal your brain when it's time to dive deep. This could be as simple as a specific playlist, a coffee in a favorite mug, or taking a moment to breathe before you start. Over time, these small acts become anchors. They remind you that you're in control, that this space is sacred, and that your attention is invaluable. Eventually, your outside world starts to reflect your inner clarity. You say no more often, not because you want to avoid things, but because you're in alignment with your goals. You focus on depth, substance, and protecting your attention. This is not just about being productive, it's about becoming the person you want to be. You stop chasing distractions to escape boredom. You no longer fear moments of quiet. Instead, you embrace them because that's where insights come from, where creativity thrives, and where true growth begins. By taking charge of your attention, you reclaim your life in a powerful and freeing way. In the modern world, the battle for your attention is ultimately a battle for your time. The ticking clock hasn't changed, but how we experience time has shifted drastically. Time often feels like it's slipping away, not because the day is shorter, but because our focus is pulled in 1,000 different directions. We're caught up in notifications, endless feeds, and all sorts of little distractions that eat up our minutes and hours without us even realizing it. Many people find themselves in a haze, starting the day with good intentions, only to end it confused about where the time went. At its core, Dopamine Detox helps us take back control of our time. It's about gaining clarity and intentionally reshaping how we live each day. So we're not just reacting to life, but actively shaping it. This chapter explores how to turn time from a chaotic force into a structured system that aligns with our true goals. In today's digital world, one of the biggest risks of being hooked on dopamine is something psychologists call time blindness. It's not just being late to things or missing appointments. It's about losing touch with how much time is actually passing. People who spend too much time on activities that flood their brains with dopamine, like scrolling through social media or binge-watching shows, often struggle with this. These activities might seem harmless at first, but they warp our sense of time in a big way. We think we'll scroll for just 5 minutes, only to look up an hour later, wondering where the time went. Unlike tasks that need our full attention or lead to something meaningful, these digital distractions leave no memory. They fill our hours but don't add any value. Because they don't really engage our minds, they create a foggy feeling, time that feels both empty and exhausting. The more time we spend like this, the less we understand how long tasks actually take or how we use our days. We tend to overcommit because we underestimate how much time we have. We procrastinate, assuming there's always more time, and end up panicking by the end of the day, feeling like we've achieved nothing, even when we've been busy. To begin practicing dopamine discipline, we need to cut out these false inputs that distort our sense of time. When we stop jumping from video to notification to text, we can start to reclaim our focus. When we start to pay attention again, something interesting happens. A minute feels like a minute. An hour, suddenly it feels like we can do something meaningful with it. With this new awareness, we start making different choices. We plan not just for getting things done, but for finding balance. We learn to guard our time like it's something special, not just an endless rush we can waste away. There's an emotional side to this change too. Time blindness often brings along guilt, anxiety, and frustration. We feel bad for wasting time, anxious about deadlines, and frustrated when we can't seem to get a grip. But here's the truth. It's not a personal flaw. It's a problem with the systems we've let shape our lives. Notifications are designed to pull us away. Algorithms keep us captivated. Interfaces keep us glued. Realizing this is the first step in forgiving ourselves and moving on. Dopamine detox isn't just about having discipline. It's about being aware. By cutting out these distractions, we clear our heads, not just about time, but about ourselves. We learn to trust our sense of time again, getting back in touch with the rhythm of a normal day and the ticking clock. Now, once we've cleared the chaos and reclaimed our time, it's time to redesign our days for deep work. This isn't just about making a better to-do list or finding a new planner. It's about fundamentally changing how we view our daily lives. Deep work doesn't happen in the leftover bits of time. It has to be integrated into the core of your day. To do this, we create containers for focused work. A container is simply a chunk of time, free from interruptions, distractions, or noise. It's protected like an important meeting or a doctor's appointment. When you build these containers, you're no longer leaving your essential work up to chance. You declare that focus is important, not a luxury. Consistency makes these containers even stronger. The brain loves routines. If you dedicate the first 2 hours of your morning to deep focus, your mind starts to anticipate that rhythm. You approach those hours with less resistance and more clarity. Dopamine detox speeds this up by removing the competing rewards that otherwise scatter your attention. Without the lure of quick dopamine hits, your brain starts to embrace the more subtle, yet incredibly satisfying flow state that comes from deep work. Over time, this creates a positive cycle. The more you dive into focused tasks, the easier it gets. As it gets easier, you begin to trust yourself more, and with that trust, your confidence builds. This is how top creatives, thinkers, and entrepreneurs craft amazing work, not by frantic multitasking, but through dedicated focus inside well-structured time blocks. Just as crucial in this overhaul is managing transitions. A lot of our mental energy slips away when we jump from one task to another without clear boundaries or rituals. By setting distinct starts and finishes for your deep work sessions, you lessen mental friction and save willpower. For example, kicking off a focus session with a short walk, a breathing exercise, or even a specific playlist trains your mind to switch gears smoothly. Wrapping up sessions with a brief reflection or journaling brings a sense of closure and progress. These simple rituals may seem small, but they become powerful tools in establishing a new daily rhythm. They remind your mind that you're not just working, you're taking part in a meaningful practice of focus, presence, and growth. This intentional living rhythm starts with structured work periods and gradually transforms into a whole new lifestyle. The final and most fulfilling stage of mastering your time through dopamine discipline is the birth of what feels like an intentional rhythm of living. At this point, the principles of focus, clarity, and deep work spill over into every aspect of your day. You start eating mindfully, walking with presence, and speaking thoughtfully. Even your leisure time shifts. It's no longer about mind-numbing entertainment, but about activities that enrich, nourish, and energize you, like reading, gardening, enjoying nature, or having unhurried conversations. These become essential to a life in harmony with your values. Intentional living means you're not simply on autopilot anymore. You're choosing your actions, inputs, and outputs. You're proactive instead of reactive. The chaos that once marked your days begins to fade away. Finding clarity isn't about having everything perfectly in order. It's about tuning into your inner compass. This compass helps you navigate the constant chaos of modern life without losing your center. You don't have to react to every notification. You don't need to chase every trend or worry about missing out. You're in sync with your own cadence, a rhythm that aligns with your goals, values, and peace of mind. Living intentionally brings a deep sense of satisfaction. When your days reflect what truly matters, even the mundane feels significant. Tasks like washing dishes, jotting down a few sentences, or listening to music turn into chances to be present, to engage, to really live. Dopamine detoxing isn't about holding back, it's about growing. When we let go of those fake highs, we make room for true fulfillment. By clearing away the distractions, we discover the richness that everyday life offers. This is the real reward, reclaiming your time. It's not just about being more productive. It's about enjoying a better life, one where you're no longer just along for the ride, but in control. You're not scattered, you're centered. You're not rushing, you're intentional with each step. Now let's talk about rewiring our reward system. Most of our lives, we think of discipline as something tough, a burden we have to bear. We push through discomfort for a perceived greater good. But what if that view is all wrong? What if real discipline comes not from repressing ourselves, but from completely reshaping how our brains see reward? Every habit, every decision, every action we take is part of a reinforcement system. We do what feels good, or what once felt good, or what we think might feel good. This chapter digs deep into that reinforcement loop of craving, action, and reward, and shows us how to redesign it. Dopamine detoxing isn't just about silencing the noise. It's about fundamentally changing the wiring that drives our actions. So doing what we want feels good. That's where the magic is. That's how discipline can feel natural and how our efforts can turn into genuine desire. Understanding the dopamine reinforcement feedback loop means recognizing how every action we take can lead us to satisfaction. Afterward, our brains jot down a little note saying, "This is good, do this again." That note is written in dopamine. It doesn't just bring us pleasure, it teaches us what to chase after next. The more we do something that releases dopamine, the stronger that connection gets. This is the heart of how our brains learn. When we eat a cookie and it feels great, we don't just enjoy the taste. We remember everything about that moment. The smell of the kitchen, the sound of the wrapper, even a quick look at the pantry. All these small details create a network of memories that makes us want to do it again. Our brain becomes super efficient, always on the lookout for chances to repeat those feel-good experiences. But there's a problem in today's world. It's not that our system is broken, it's been hijacked. We're surrounded by things that are too stimulating: super tasty foods, endless online distractions, constant notifications. All these artificially boost our dopamine. These high-intensity signals drown out the quieter, more meaningful pleasures like reading a book, finishing a task, or exercising. Yes, these things are deeply satisfying in the long run, but they don't release much dopamine right away. Over time, our reward system starts to favor the quick and easy. We lose our ability to handle effort and crave the things that take patience. That's where detoxing becomes really important. It's not about suffering, it's about resetting ourselves. Imagine walking past your phone without any urge to check it. Picture sitting down to write, feeling curiosity instead of dread. Or think of exercising, not as a punishment, but as a relief. This is achievable, but we have to take control of the feedback loop first. To do that, we need to break the cycle of automatic rewards. That means cutting back on the things that give quick dopamine but have little value. Social media, binge-watching shows, mindless snacking. These are the false signals we need to starve. But that's just the first step. The second, even more powerful step is to start linking dopamine to the good behaviors we want to reinforce. After a focused work session, take a moment to reflect and celebrate. Notice how good it felt to concentrate. After a workout, enjoy that post-exercise high. By paying attention to these positive feelings, we make them louder in our minds. The more we notice them, the more our brains remember. Over time, cravings start to attach themselves to meaningful work. This isn't forced, it's just how our brains learn. By intentionally guiding cravings, we can turn them into positive habits. If cravings are simply patterns in our brains, we can rewrite them. This shift, turning negative desires into positive ones, isn't about suppressing cravings but redirecting them. A craving is energy, a signal from our body and mind gearing up for action. Too often, we misdirect that energy to easy distractions. When we feel restless, we grab our phones. When we're stressed, we mindlessly scroll. But what if we could channel that restlessness and tension into something that helps us reach our goals? The trick is to not fight the craving, but to connect it to a new habit. This is where intentional substitution becomes a game changer. We pick a healthy alternative that's easy to do and rewarding, and we consistently pair it with the craving moment. Over time, the brain starts to change the craving. The urge to scroll can turn into the urge to journal, the need to snack becomes a chance to take a walk, and the itch for stimulation can shift into a moment to breathe and reset. This transformation doesn't happen in a day. Our brains need repetition, consistency, and clear feedback. That's why habit stacking works so well. By attaching a new behavior to an existing cue, we ride on established brain patterns. Imagine your first response to boredom is checking your phone. Instead of trying to cut that moment out, you would insert a new action. When you feel the urge, stand up, stretch, and take 3 deep breaths. At first, it might seem small or even silly, but the real power is in the pattern you're building. Over weeks and months, that new loop begins to form. The craving doesn't disappear, it changes and grows. In essence, you're performing a kind of alchemy, taking raw desire and refining it into something constructive. We often forget how quickly these shifts can happen. Once we stop filling our brains with quick fixes, just days into a real dopamine detox, people start noticing joys they'd overlooked. The fresh morning air, the satisfaction of ticking off a task, these simple pleasures come back to life. Silence becomes a cozy spot instead of an empty gap waiting to be filled. These joys aren't new. They've been around forever. But as we quiet our minds, we start to yearn for more meaningful experiences. The surface level stuff loses its appeal, while the deeper things draw us in. This is the turning point. Craving shifts from being a trap to a useful tool. Discipline isn't about hard work anymore. It's about wanting what aligns with who we are. Motivation sticks with us because it's tied to our identity and our feelings. To truly change how we reward ourselves, we need to anchor it in who we are, not just in our actions. Habits that last aren't just chores, they reflect our beliefs about ourselves. If you view yourself as a writer, then writing isn't just a task. It's part of how you see and interact with the world. If you see yourself as disciplined, choosing focus over distraction feels natural and right. Identity plays a key role in forming habits. It's shaped by our emotions, not just our actions. Every time we take on a tough task and feel pride or gratitude afterward, we strengthen that identity a bit more. We don't just recall the task, we remember how it made us feel. That emotional connection is what helps our habits stick. That's why reflecting is vital in this detox journey. It's not enough just to dodge distractions. We also need to acknowledge our alignment. We should reinforce both our behaviors and our self-image. This makes staying motivated less about pushing ourselves and more about nourishing the bond between who we are and what we do. That's where journaling, community, and storytelling come in. When we write down our little wins, we teach our brains, this is who I'm becoming. Sharing our journeys with others amplifies that feedback. Telling ourselves a clear story of growth, like going from being distracted to being focused, strengthens the path of change in our minds. Identity is a story written through action. Each choice is a sentence, each habit a paragraph. Over time, our narrative becomes so strong that stepping out of alignment feels uncomfortable, not from guilt, but because it doesn't match who we are anymore. This is sustainable motivation. It's not forced or weak. It's grounded in a self that values integrity. Additionally, there's an emotional shift that comes with this new way of living. Instead of seeking stimulation to escape discomfort, we now start seeing challenges as chances to grow. Dopamine stops being a trap for distractions and turns into a guide for purposeful action. We learn to hold off on instant gratification, not as a punishment, but because we've felt the joy of rewards earned over time. We trust ourselves to follow through, and that trust brings us peace. When discipline is no longer about limits, but about connecting with our best selves, motivation doesn't become something we chase. It naturally rises within us each day, just like our breath. In Chapter 11, we tackle mental clarity, cutting through the inner noise in a world that keeps getting louder. It's not just about sound, but also about thoughts, demands, distractions, and those little decisions that pop up everywhere. Achieving mental clarity has become a rare, yet crucial skill if you want to do deep work. The digital age floods us with stimuli that clutter our minds. Notifications, worries, unfinished tasks, they all chip away at our mental bandwidth, making it tougher to concentrate, think straight, and make good choices. This chapter is about facing that mental chaos and learning how to find order again. Mental clarity isn't something that just happens, it's something we build. It takes a conscious effort to detox the noise we've come to accept as part of life. While much of dopamine detox is about cutting out outside triggers, mental clarity digs deeper. It's about what happens in our minds when we unplug. It's creating space, not just silence, and training our minds to stay present with strength and purpose. When we clear away the mental clutter, we can think straight instead of spiraling. We regain the ability to hold on to a single thought without it breaking apart under pressure. And maybe most importantly, we start to hear the quiet wisdom that's always been there, just hidden beneath the chaos. To master mental clarity, we first have to know what's clouding our minds in the first place. Our modern brains constantly juggle countless unfinished thoughts and unresolved bits of information. We call these open loops. These are tasks or commitments we've thought about but haven't wrapped up yet. The moment we remember that we need to reply to an email, call someone back, finish a report, or pick up groceries, it all adds to the noise. When we think about checking in on a friend Our brains alert us with a sense of urgency. But if we don't handle those tasks, they stick around like endless tabs open on a computer. We might not think about them all the time, but they still sap our mental energy. Then there are the bigger weights we carry, things like unresolved conflicts, uncertainty about our identity, fear of failure, and regret. These thoughts don't just clutter our minds, they also tint how we see the world and our future. When our brains are filled with these intentions, we can easily mistake the noise for reality. We make quick choices and distract ourselves, not because we're lazy, but because we're overwhelmed. Finding clarity starts with identifying what's causing that inner noise. It's not about judging ourselves, it's about becoming aware. Another major source of mental clutter is too much information. We've gotten used to the idea that we should absorb countless snippets of data daily, headlines, tweets, texts, videos, and posts, without realizing our brains aren't built to handle that much input without effects. Information overload isn't just about data, it's also about decision-making. Every piece of content sparks tiny reactions, comparisons, judgments, curiosity, doubt. These responses, even if brief, pile up. When we don't give our minds a break from constant input, we miss the chance to digest and reflect on what we really know. To detox our mental clutter, we need to cut back on what we take in, slow down the flow, and protect our focus. Once we guard what enters our mental space, we start to see which thoughts are genuinely ours and which are just echoes from the outside world. Now let's talk about clearing and centering our minds. After identifying the clutter, it's time to create some mental space. Achieving mental clarity is both an art and a practice. It needs tools and routines to help us sift through the noise and ground ourselves in the moment. One of the most effective and often overlooked methods is the brain dump. This means getting everything off your mind, no filtering, onto paper or a digital note. The aim isn't to organize right away, but to unload. By transferring our thoughts from our heads to a visible form, we lighten our mental load. The relief can be instant when our minds realize they don't have to keep track of everything all at once. When you open an empty space in your mind, it starts to relax. This is the first step towards clarity. But just clearing the mind isn't enough. We also need to find our center. Centering means training our minds to calm down and focus, even when distractions are all around us. Meditation is one of the best ways to get there. Many think it's all about spirituality, but really, it's more like a workout for your focus, like a gym session for your brain. By sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, and watching your thoughts without chasing them, we build the mental strength we need in our noisy lives. Just 5 to 10 minutes of breath work each day can really cut through the mental clutter. The aim isn't to stop thinking, but to change how we connect with our thoughts. When we can notice a thought without getting pulled along by it, we take back control. There are also physical activities that help clear the mind. Movement is great for the body and gives the brain a reset. Going for a brisk, quiet walk without any distractions might even be more effective than an hour of trying to solve a problem. When we move, it helps our thoughts flow, letting insights pop up without the stress. We also need good sleep for clarity. Not getting enough rest messes with our memory, makes it hard to focus, and messes with our emotions. When we're tired, everything, including our thoughts, feels heavier. Detoxing the mind isn't just about certain practices. It's really about our lifestyle. Prioritizing sleep, keeping active, cutting back on caffeine in the evening, and embracing silence aren't luxuries. They're must-haves for a clear mind in our chaotic world. Creating a mental space that encourages deep work is just as crucial as setting up a tidy desk or a quiet room. We need to build mental environments that foster concentration. This involves curating the emotions and thoughts that help us focus. The key part of this setup is having a clear intention. When we start a task without knowing what success looks like, our mind fills that gap with doubt, procrastination, or distractions. Before diving into deep work, ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish in this time? What does success look like? This prepares your brain, activating the part that drives goal-directed behavior and gives it a target to aim for. Creating a sense of psychological safety is key. It's about shutting out that inner critic. Many struggle to dive into deep work not because of outside distractions, but due to fears swirling inside. fears of failure, judgment, or not being perfect. Those thoughts linger, asking, what if it's not good enough? Or, what if I mess up again? They don't belong in your work. They belong in therapy or journaling, not during your focused work hours. To find mental clarity, you need to remind yourself, this isn't the moment for judgment. It's time to take action. You can think later, but right now, just create. Clearing your mind helps too. If you sit down to write but can't shake off that nagging thought about an unanswered email, that email becomes a distraction. A great trick is to spend 5 minutes wrapping up loose ends before you start working. Take a moment to jot down what's on your mind or finish a quick task. It's not about crossing everything off the list, just about knowing you've noted it somewhere safe so you can let it go for now. Trusting that you can return to those thoughts later helps your focus. Finally, let's talk about emotions. Your mental space for deep work needs to feel right. Start your session not just by planning what tasks to do, but by checking in with your feelings. Ask yourself, how do I want to feel while I work? Curious, empowered, grounded? Then create a small ritual to help bring that feeling alive. Maybe a favorite song, a deep breath, or some visualization. Anchor your emotions, not just your schedule. When your feelings align with your thoughts, clarity flows naturally. Your mind slides into a state of flow, not by forcing it, but by inviting it in. It feels safe, clear, and ready to dive into the work ahead. Now, let's talk about embracing boredom. In this world crammed with constant stimulation, being bored feels like a lost concept. It's often linked to wasted time or a lack of productivity. We've learned to dodge boredom at all costs, filling every spare moment with noise or distractions. But here's the thing. Boredom isn't something to dread. It's actually a rich ground for creativity, reflection, and self-awareness. In this chapter, we'll dive into why embracing boredom and rest is essential for your dopamine detox journey. Sitting with discomfort and stepping away from all the noise around us lets our minds reset. It helps us to gain clarity and focus. Boredom, it's not our enemy. It's actually a teacher. When we get rid of outside distractions, we tap into our deepest creativity and discover our purpose. Facing boredom head-on gives our minds a chance to clear out the clutter, lets our bodies rest, and helps our spirits reset. In that stillness, we can reach our highest potential. At first, boredom might look like a problem. It can feel like we're not engaged, not doing enough, or not achieving what we should be. We often see it as a negative, a sign we need more entertainment. But recent studies in neuroscience paint a different picture. Boredom is a natural state for our brains, and it's actually vital for long-term health and creativity. Our brains seek out new experiences. When we don't have them, we can feel empty, wanting something to fill that space. But this emptiness isn't just a void, it's full of potential. When we let ourselves be bored, we create opportunities for our minds to wander, daydream, and explore ideas we wouldn't normally think about. That's where creative insights begin. Research shows that when we step away from active tasks and let our minds relax, we enter a special state that boosts creative thinking and problem solving. This state is called the default mode network, and it lights up when we're not busy focusing on tasks. By stepping back from constant stimulation and welcoming boredom, we activate this network, allowing our brains to process information in new ways and notice connections we hadn't seen before. In other words, boredom isn't wasted time. It's essential for sparking creativity. The more we embrace boredom, the more room we give our brains to create new solutions and insights that push our work forward. So, embracing boredom isn't just about sitting through a bit of discomfort. It's tapping into the mind's natural talent for creating, innovating, and solving problems. It means breaking free from our addiction to constant stimulation. For many of us, just the thought of doing nothing can feel uncomfortable or even scary. We live in a world that praises being busy, where productivity is seen as the top measure of success. We're taught to think that if we're not always on the go, we're falling behind. There's this common belief that rest somehow gets in the way of progress, that to achieve anything great, we have to work non-stop. This idea is woven into our daily routines, from how we plan our time to how we value ourselves. But the truth is, constantly pushing ourselves isn't a long-term solution. It's actually counterproductive. When we're always busy, checking our phones, answering emails, or juggling errands, it creates a cycle of stress and fatigue that can eventually lead to burnout. On the flip side, rest is a powerful way to recharge both our brains and bodies. It's only by taking time to rest that we can keep our energy, focus, and creativity intact over the long haul. Rest lets us step back, escape the constant pressure to perform, and reset ourselves. Still, many people struggle to fully embrace rest. We often feel guilty for taking breaks or just sitting with our thoughts. There's this fear that if we slow down, we might lose our pace, miss opportunities, or fall behind. But that fear stems from a misguided belief. The reality is, rest is not the enemy of productivity. It's actually its foundation. Without rest, we can't perform at our best. Our brains need downtime to process what we've learned, store memories, and form new ideas. It's in those quiet moments when we're not actively doing anything that our minds recharge and reset, enabling us to get back to work with better focus and creativity. The goal is to break the cycle of always needing to be productive and recognize that idleness can be refreshing and essential for deep work. Rest and recovery are crucial for achieving sustainable productivity. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the more we work, the more we achieve. But this approach isn't sustainable in the long run. Deep work needs sustained focus and energy, which come from allowing ourselves to rest. Creativity thrives on good rest and recovery. Think of deep work like a marathon, not a sprint. To perform at our peak, we need to give our bodies and minds time to rest. It's not just about physical rest. Mental and emotional recovery matter too. Mental exhaustion is real, just like physical tiredness. The cure? Rest and relaxation. One great way to recharge is to build regular breaks into our workday. This could be a quick walk every hour, doing some mindfulness or meditation, or diving into a hobby that makes us happy. These pauses help us recharge, so when we jump back into our work, we're filled with fresh energy and focus. But breaks alone aren't enough. Sleep is crucial for recovery. It's nature's way of helping our bodies heal. Sleep is vital for our brains too, aiding memory and emotions. Without enough sleep, our thinking and decisions really suffer. It's not just about logging hours in bed. It's about creating a sleep-friendly environment, cutting down on distractions, reducing screen time before sleep, and sticking to a regular schedule. Mental recovery is just as key. We need to let ourselves unplug from work and do things that help us unwind. This might mean reading, enjoying nature, or simply sitting quietly to reflect. It's important to be okay with resting without feeling guilty. Remember, resting is part of the deep work process. Just as our bodies need sleep to function well, our minds need rest for clarity, creativity, and focus. Rest and recovery aren't just about hitting pause. They're about giving ourselves room to grow and reflect. This allows us to come back to our work with more intention and energy. By recognizing rest as a crucial part of deep work, we bolster our focus, creativity, and productivity for the long haul. We're constantly bombarded by emails and endless information, which breaks our attention into pieces. We've gotten so used to juggling multiple tasks that we tend to forget how it feels to really focus on one thing for a long time. But here's the thing. It's in that deep focus, that complete engagement without distractions, where we truly tap into our potential. In this chapter, we're going to look at how powerful intentional focus can be, how to dive into deep work, and how you can take back your attention to perform at your best. Deep work isn't just about pushing harder. It's about working with purpose, clarity, and intention. It's about shutting out distractions, figuring out what really matters, and getting fully absorbed in what you're doing. When we're in that deep work zone, we're not just checking off tasks. We're engaging in a meaningful mental process that helps us reach our highest capabilities. This focused approach is what sets the exceptional apart from the ordinary and helps us make real progress in our lives, both personally and professionally. But there's a challenge. We live in a world designed to split our attention. Social media, constant pings, and the need to do more in less time all make it harder to focus deeply. The good news? Intentional focus is a skill we can develop. With the right strategies, we can train our brains to concentrate better, for longer, and with clearer thought. This chapter will give you the tools and insights to reclaim your attention, foster a deep work mindset, and achieve amazing results. even in a world filled with distractions. So let's dive into the science behind attention and see how it shapes our reality. Attention is the key that unlocks all our information, experiences, and actions. The quality of our attention directly influences how well we work, the strength of our relationships, and overall life satisfaction. But remember, our attention is a limited resource that can be easily worn out in this distraction-filled world. Understanding how attention works is essential for developing the ability to focus deeply. Research shows that our brains have their limits, so let's learn to make the most of our attention. Our ability to focus takes a hit when we're constantly distracted. These distractions can come from outside, like those pesky phone notifications or the noise around us. They can also be from within, racing thoughts or anxiety. The more we try to split our attention among different tasks, the less effective we become with each one. This is why multitasking, even though it sounds appealing, doesn't really work. Research shows that it actually slows us down and lowers the quality of our work. Our brains can't handle two complex tasks at once. Instead, when we multitask, we're just switching back and forth, which makes it harder and messier. On the flip side, when we focus entirely on one task, we unlock our brain's ability for deep concentration. That kind of focus lets us perform at our best. It helps us get into that flow where time flies and we're fully absorbed in what we're doing. But reaching that state takes some effort. It means shutting out distractions, resisting the urge to check your phone, and really committing to what's happening right now. The more we practice this focused attention, the better we get at it, allowing us to accomplish more in less time. Deep work isn't just a happy accident. It's a skill that takes time, intention, and discipline to build. The first step is setting up the right environment, one that keeps distractions to a minimum and promotes steady focus. That means carving out specific times and places for deep work, away from the interruptions of emails, phone calls, and social media. The less external noise, the easier it is to dive into deep focus. But we also need to tackle internal distractions, the thoughts and worries that can pull us away. One great way to do this is through mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness meditation, we learn to become aware of our thoughts and feelings. This awareness helps us realize when our minds have wandered and gently bring our attention back to the task at hand. Mindfulness isn't just about relaxing. It's about honing your ability to focus with clarity and intent. Another important part of deep work is setting clear, specific goals for each session. When you know exactly what you want to achieve, it's much easier to stay on track and resist the urge to check your phone or get sidetracked by irrelevant tasks. Breaking big projects into smaller, manageable pieces helps create structure and direction, keeping you focused. This method can also help lessen that overwhelming feeling that often comes with complex tasks. By tackling one small task at a time, you build momentum and steadily move toward your larger goal. Mastering deep work isn't something that happens overnight. It requires time, patience, and consistent effort. But as you keep at it, you'll notice that your focus improves and your ability to produce high-quality work increases. The key is to stay committed, even when it gets tough or uncomfortable. By embracing deep work, you set yourself on a path to reaching your full potential, both personally and professionally. Now, let's talk about distractions. They're everywhere, right? Whether it's the urge to scroll through social media, a new email alert, or looming deadlines, distractions are a constant struggle. While it may seem impossible to eliminate them completely, there are ways to lessen their impact and maintain your focus. First, identify what distracts you in your environment and take steps to minimize or get rid of those distractions. This could mean turning off notifications, closing extra browser tabs, or using apps that block distracting sites during your deep work time. Creating a dedicated workspace is also crucial. Set up a spot that's clutter-free and quiet. When you create a space just for focused work, you send a message to your brain. This is a time for concentration, not distractions. And don't forget about internal distractions. It's just as important to tackle what's going on in your mind. Dealing with the noise in your head can be tough, especially when you're trying to focus. One helpful trick to handle those distractions is the 2-minute rule. When a distracting thought pops up, like the urge to check your email or feeling anxious, Give yourself just 2 minutes to acknowledge it. Set a timer, dive into that thought for a bit, and once time's up, return to your work. This way, you take away some of their power while letting yourself notice and let go of them. Another great strategy to keep your focus is the Pomodoro technique. This is where you work hard for 25 minutes, then take a short break. It helps you stay energized and keeps burnout at bay. By breaking your work into these short sprints, you can focus better for longer and still give your mind a breather during those breaks. And remember, be kind to yourself. Deep work is no easy feat. It's normal for your mind to wander or for distractions to pop up. When that happens, instead of getting frustrated, just notice it and gently steer your focus back to what you're doing. With practice, it gets easier to stay on track and fight off distractions. As we wrap up, let's talk about how consistency leads to mastery. Real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a steady process. It takes patience, commitment, and a constant effort when you're aiming for deep work and clearing your mind of dopamine overload. The difference between just dabbling in improvement and achieving really meaningful change is about sticking with it day in and day out. Creating a life filled with deep work, where focus, creativity, and clarity come easily, doesn't stem from occasional bursts of hard work. It's about consistent daily practice. In this last chapter, we'll look at how this consistency can help make deep work a regular part of your life. To achieve amazing results while staying well, the secret to mastering any area, be it creativity, career, or personal growth, isn't just about working harder or smarter. It's about showing up consistently, day after day. It's about welcoming the growth journey, realizing that real progress comes in small, intentional steps instead of giant leaps. When consistency becomes your main focus, you'll discover that the benefits of deep work aren't just long-lasting. They build up over time to create something far greater than the individual parts. The real challenge is making this change stick. It's about turning the insights, skills, and habits you've gained from your dopamine detox into a lifelong practice that's core to who you are. This last chapter will steer you through creating lasting change, overcoming the bumps in the road, and making deep work a fulfilling way of life, not just an efficient one. In our fast-paced world, where we often look for quick solutions and instant results, it's easy to forget the impact of small, steady actions. We're wired to expect quick transformations and to hunt for shortcuts to success. But the reality is, the most substantial and lasting results come from regular, small actions, not grand moves. This is what we call the compound effect, the idea that little efforts done repeatedly lead to significant outcomes. In terms of deep work, this means showing up every day, even when you're not in the mood, and deciding to focus on what truly matters. It's about committing to the journey, not just the finish line, and trusting that every small step is moving you toward your bigger goals. This compound effect also works psychologically. When we stick to small, consistent actions, we create momentum. This momentum starts a positive loop where each tiny success boosts our confidence. And this is a vital part of building a deep work habit. The more you practice focused work, the easier it gets to find that deep concentration. Over time, it shifts from feeling tough to becoming a natural flow. It doesn't happen all at once. It takes commitment and the willingness to face doubt and frustration. But as you show up each day and dive into deep work, you'll start to see the compound effect unfold in your life. The results will be clear, not just in what you produce, but also in how focused, creative, and well you feel. The secret? Be patient. Trust that every little effort brings you closer to mastery. Consistency isn't about being perfect, it's about sticking with it. When you embrace the power of small actions, you'll notice that real change happens little by little, each step building on the last. Over time, these tiny efforts will turn into something amazing, making deep work a habit. Now let's talk about rituals and routines. The magic of consistency and deep work isn't just in occasional bursts of energy. It's in creating habits that weave deep work into your daily life. Think of habits and routines as the support structure for regular action. By making deep work a non-negotiable part of your schedule, you're setting a foundation that helps your brain understand it's time to focus. The first step in making deep work a habit is to carve out a specific time and place for it. Maybe that's the first hour of your day, or some quiet time in the evening when interruptions are rare. When deep work becomes a fixed part of your routine, it signals to your brain that it's time to zero in. But there's more. Beyond just scheduling, the key is to build a ritual around your deep work. Rituals are those intentional actions that mark the beginning of focused work. This could be making a cup of tea, taking a few minutes to meditate, or reviewing your goals for the day. These rituals act as mental triggers, prepping your brain for deep work mode. Eventually, they'll become second nature, making it easier to dive into focus without hesitation. Another important aspect of establishing a deep work habit is setting clear, achievable goals. The more specific you are, the better. The clearer and more specific your goals are, the easier it is to stay motivated and focused. Break down those big projects into smaller, manageable tasks and celebrate those little victories along the way. Tracking your progress gives you a sense of accomplishment that builds your habits and keeps the momentum going. But the most crucial part of making deep work a habit is consistency. It's one thing to dive into deep work for a day, a week, or even a month. The real challenge? Making it a regular part of your life. You need to show up every single day, even when it's tough, or you'd rather do something else. The more you stick to it, the more natural it feels. Soon enough, focusing becomes second nature, and the benefits, like heightened creativity, greater productivity, and a deeper sense of fulfillment, become woven into your everyday routine. When you turn deep work into a habit, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. You're on the road to reaching your highest potential. But that road isn't always smooth. It's filled with setbacks, obstacles, and moments of doubt. Some days, keeping your focus will be a struggle. Distractions will pop up, or you might just feel like throwing in the towel. These moments will happen, but they don't define your journey. What's really important is how you respond to those challenges. Resilience is key for keeping on track when things get tough. When you hit a roadblock, think of it as a chance to grow, not a sign that you've failed. Resilience means accepting life's inevitable ups and downs while staying committed to your goals. One great way to build resilience is through self-compassion. Instead of beating yourself up when things go wrong, treat yourself with kindness. Understand that setbacks are just part of the process, and each failure is a chance to learn and get better. Another essential part of overcoming setbacks is keeping your why at the forefront. What's the deeper reason behind your commitment to deep work? When you know your purpose, staying motivated amid challenges becomes much easier. Whether you're aiming to create something meaningful, deepen your relationships, or achieve success at work, reminding yourself of your why will help you push through. Working hard keeps you grounded and on track. Don't forget to celebrate every bit of progress, no matter how tiny. Each step forward, every moment of focus, and every little win is a victory that deserves recognition. When you acknowledge your progress, you create momentum and strengthen the habit of working deeply. The road to lasting change isn't easy, but with resilience, a clear purpose, and celebrating your achievements, you can bounce back from any setback and keep moving toward mastery.